Spouse's 5-year memory decline. Bizarre incidents spark Covert filming. Startling footage exposed. My name is Emily, and I'm 50 years old. Let me tell you about the roller coaster of emotions and events that have unfolded in my life over the past few years. 5 years ago, I discovered that my husband was diagnosed with dementia. He had been demoted at work due to increasing mistakes, but his diagnosis was juvenile Alzheimer's, or simply put, dementia. It was shocking, especially since he had never been the hardest worker, and his forgetfulness had increased over time. We visited the hospital to confirm his condition, but little did I know that this journey was about to take some unexpected and painful turns. At the time, we were childless, and I continued to work. My parents had already passed away, while his parents lived not too far away from us in the countryside. They offered to take him in and suggested that I get a divorce. But my husband adamantly refused to leave the city, and I couldn't bring myself to divorce him just because he was ill. We had been together for nearly 20 years, through thick and thin, and I couldn't abandon him now. His condition seemed to be manageable at first. With medication, he could still lead a relatively normal life. However, his memory lapses were becoming more frequent, and he struggled with simple tasks, especially at work. I contemplated quitting my job to take care of him, but he insisted that I keep working. So I continued to work while making sure he was safe at home. Over time, I noticed things going missing, especially some expensive items like brand name bags, shoes, and clothes. I asked my husband about them, but all he could say was, "I don't know." It was frustrating, but I brushed it off as a side effect of his condition. The doctor had told me that the progression of dementia could vary, and we were still in the early stages. However, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. One day, I decided to set up surveillance cameras in our home without telling him. I wanted to make sure he wasn't getting into any trouble when I was at work. What I saw in the footage left me utterly shocked. My husband was bringing a woman into our home, and they were having conversations as if he didn't have dementia at all. I couldn't believe my eyes. The woman turned out to be a doctor who had diagnosed my husband. The hospital she worked at was in charge of the medical checkups for his company. I was devastated, feeling like I'd been living a lie for the past 5 years. My husband's behavior was far from what I had expected of someone with dementia. He was even more surprised when I discovered that all our savings had been withdrawn from our joint account. I felt betrayed and helpless. I struggled with how to confront him with this newfound knowledge. My emotions ranged from anger to sadness to despair. I considered legal action, but I also thought about the 20 years we had spent together. I endured my feelings, trying to decide on the best course of action. A few days passed, and I decided that I couldn't continue living this way. I had to confront him and make him face the consequences of his actions. It was a painful and challenging decision, but I couldn't let this betrayal go unaddressed. As I grappled with the whirlwind of emotions and my husband's apparent betrayal, I realized that I needed to confront him. It was a difficult decision, but it was the only way to find the truth, and if necessary, seek a resolution. So one evening, as we sat at the dinner table, I took a deep breath and mustered the courage to begin the conversation. "Hey," I started tentatively, "we need to talk about something important." My husband, who had been largely inattentive during our meals in recent years, looked up, his eyes still showing that hint of normality, even if just for a moment. "What's on your mind?" he replied. I took a moment to steady my nerves, knowing that this conversation could change everything. "I've been going through some concerns lately, especially about our savings and some missing items." He nodded, as though he was genuinely listening, and it gave me a glimmer of hope. "I've noticed some things missing, and when I checked our bank account, all our savings have disappeared." A faint smile played on his lips as he replied, "Oh, that. Don't worry, Emily. It's all been taken care of." Taken care of? I couldn't believe the casual tone he used, as if it were something trivial. "What do you mean, it's been taken care of? Our savings are gone." He chuckled softly and leaned back in his chair, his demeanor strangely self-assured. "Emily, you've been working so hard all these years. and I know it hasn't been easy for you. So I thought, why not give you a break? I've made arrangements to ensure you don't have to work anymore. My head was spinning. I couldn't comprehend what he was saying. What kind of arrangements? You've been secretive about everything, and now our savings are gone. He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a hushed tone. Emily, I've found a way for us to live comfortably without financial worries. I've made a few investments, and they've started paying off. Investments? It was almost surreal. But why didn't you discuss this with me? We're supposed to make financial decisions together. He waved his hand dismissively, as though financial decisions were a trivial matter. I thought it would be a nice surprise for you, and it's all legitimate, I assured you. I couldn't wrap my head around it. He'd gambled our entire life savings without my knowledge, and now he was presenting it as a gift. Legitimate or not, you should have talked to me about this. You've put our future at risk. My husband's demeanor shifted, and his smile waned. Emily, I did it for us, to secure our future. You don't have to worry about working anymore. I've taken care of everything. The frustration and anger bubbled up inside me. I had been deceived, and it felt like a colossal breach of trust. You can't just make unilateral decisions like this, especially when it affects both of us. And what about those missing items and the woman I saw in the surveillance footage? He glanced away, his eyes avoiding mine, and mumbled, "Oh, that. I was just helping a friend out." Helping a friend? My mind raced with possibilities. Are you saying that woman has something to do with these so-called investments? He hesitated and then replied, "Emily, let's not dwell on this. I promise I'll make everything right, and you won't have to work anymore." I couldn't believe his audacity. He was evading the issue and acting as if he could simply make everything right. But this wasn't just about money. It was about trust and honesty. I need some time to think about all of this. It's a lot to take in. My husband nodded, and his expression shifted to one of understanding. Of course, take all the time you need. But remember, I did this for us. As I retreated from the dinner table, I couldn't help but feel a sense of betrayal weighing heavily on my heart. My husband's actions had not only jeopardized our financial security, but also shaken the foundation of trust in our marriage. The path forward was uncertain, and I knew that I needed to make some tough decisions. In the days that followed, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled over me. My husband's actions had left me questioning the very core of our relationship. As I pondered our situation, it became clear that I needed to take some steps to regain control of my life and make informed decisions about our future. One evening after work, I decided to consult with a close friend, Sarah, who had been a confidant for years. Over cups of tea in her cozy living room, I poured out the details of what had transpired, from my husband's mysterious investments to the missing items and the woman I'd seen on the surveillance footage. Sarah listened patiently, her brows furrowing as I spoke. When I finished, she leaned forward and said, "Emily, this is a lot to handle, and I can see why you're feeling overwhelmed. It's crucial to get some clarity on the financial situation and what your husband's been up to. Have you considered seeking legal advice?" Her suggestion resonated with me. Legal advice might be the key to understanding the full extent of my husband's actions and the potential consequences. You're right, Sarah. I think consulting with a lawyer is the next step. With a reassuring smile, she nodded and replied, "Good. It's essential to protect your interests and ensure that you have all the information you need to make decisions about your future. And remember, I'm here for you every step of the way." Encouraged by Sarah's support, I began the process of finding a lawyer. It was a step that filled me with a mix of trepidation and determination. I needed to uncover the truth, understand the extent of my husband's financial actions, and if necessary, take legal action to secure my own financial future. After a series of consultations with legal professionals, it became evident that my husband's actions were not just careless, but potentially fraudulent. The missing savings and mysterious investments raised red flags, and I was advised to take steps to protect my assets. One of the first measures I took was to open a separate bank account in my name, ensuring that my income was secure and couldn't be accessed without my consent. I also began to document all the financial transactions I had knowledge of, including any withdrawals, investments, or suspicious activities. In parallel, I engaged a forensic accountant to examine the financial records and uncover the full extent of the financial mismanagement. The process was painstaking, but the forensic accountant's expertise was invaluable in understanding where our money had gone. As the investigations progressed, my husband remained oblivious to the actions I was taking. He continued to live in the bubble of his self-assured confidence, seemingly unconcerned about the impact his choices had on our relationship and financial stability. The woman I'd seen in the surveillance footage remained a shadowy figure, and I couldn't help but wonder what role she played in this complicated web of deceit. The journey ahead was far from clear, and I was aware that it would be fraught with challenges and emotional turmoil. But I had resolved to face this head-on, to regain control of my life, and to ensure that my future was not dictated by my husband's actions. With Sarah's unwavering support and the guidance of legal professionals, I was prepared to unravel the complexities of my husband's decisions and ultimately make choices that would lead to a future that was secure and built on my terms. The path ahead was uncertain, but I was determined to navigate it with resilience and strength, knowing that I deserved a life that was true to my own aspirations and values. The days turned into weeks as I continued to gather information and build my case. My husband remained oblivious to the mounting evidence against him, and I used this time to secure my own financial future and prepare for what lay ahead. One of the most challenging aspects of this process was coming to terms with the reality of my marriage. I had spent nearly 2 decades with a person I believed I knew, but his actions had shattered that illusion. As I reflected on our time together, I began to see the signs I had missed, the moments when he had acted mysteriously or been distant. It was painful to acknowledge that my trust had been misplaced. As the forensic accountant delved deeper into our financial records, it became clear that my husband's actions were not only fraudulent, but also incredibly reckless. The investments he had made were high risk, and many of them had failed, resulting in substantial losses. Our savings had been squandered, and he had not only jeopardized our financial security, but also our future. The legal proceedings had begun in earnest, and I was guided by a team of professionals who were committed to helping me navigate this complex and emotionally charged situation. The prospect of a divorce was looming, and I was faced with the challenge of unraveling the intricacies of our shared life. One of the most difficult decisions was whether to confront my husband with the evidence I had gathered. It was a moment I had been dreading, but I knew it was essential to hold him accountable for his actions. When the time finally came, I arranged a meeting with him, and as we sat across from each other, the weight of our shared history hung in the air. "I've discovered the truth," I began, my voice steady but firm. "I know about the investments, the missing savings, and the woman I saw on the surveillance footage." My husband's face paled, and for a moment, his usual self-assured demeanor faltered. "Emily, I can explain." But I cut him off, determined to make my position clear. "There's no explanation for what you've done. Your actions have endangered our future, and I can't continue to be a part of this deception." His eyes dropped, and for the first time, I saw a hint of remorse. I never meant for things to get this far. I thought I could fix our financial problems. I couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy, but it was outweighed by the enormity of the consequences. It's too late for that now. I've taken steps to protect my own financial interests, and I've initiated the divorce proceedings. My husband's shoulders slumped, and he looked defeated. "I understand. I suppose I have to face the consequences of my actions." As I left that meeting, a mixture of emotions washed over me. There was sadness for the end of a chapter in my life that had spanned nearly 2 decades, but there was also a glimmer of hope. I had taken control of my future, and I was determined to rebuild my life on a foundation of honesty and integrity. The legal process was arduous, but my team of professionals worked diligently to ensure that my interests were protected. The financial settlements were complex, and it was a relief to see that my years of hard work had not been in vain. I secured a fair share of our remaining assets, ensuring that I would be able to move forward independently. As the divorce proceedings concluded, I took a moment to reflect on the journey that had brought me to this point. I had faced betrayal, financial uncertainty, and emotional upheaval, but I had emerged with a newfound strength and resilience. I was no longer defined by my husband's actions, but by my ability to overcome the challenges that life had thrown at me. In the wake of the divorce, I focused on rebuilding my life. I reconnected with old friends, pursued new hobbies, and even found a renewed sense of purpose in my work. The scars of the past remained, but they served as a reminder of the strength and determination that had carried me through the darkest days. Time passed, and I discovered a sense of freedom I had not felt in years. I had redefined my identity, no longer just a wife, but a resilient woman who had weathered a storm and emerged stronger. My journey was far from over, but I faced the future with a renewed sense of optimism, knowing that I could overcome whatever challenges lay ahead. In the aftermath of the divorce, life began to take on a new rhythm. I moved into a smaller, more manageable home that felt like a fresh start, unburdened by the shadows of my past. It was a place where I could rebuild and rediscover myself. Friends and loved ones rallied around me, offering unwavering support, and I was grateful for the connections that had sustained me through the tumultuous times. With my newfound financial independence, I decided to explore new horizons. For years, my career had taken a backseat to the challenges of my personal life. Now I was determined to reignite my professional passions. I sought out opportunities and began to climb the ladder once more, making strides that I had previously thought were beyond my reach. As I embraced my career with renewed vigor, I discovered a sense of purpose and fulfillment that had long been missing. The challenges I had faced and overcome had strengthened my resilience and adaptability, making me a force to be reckoned with in the professional world. However, life had more surprises in store for me. A chance encounter at a work event introduced me to a colleague, Daniel, who would eventually become a significant presence in my life. Our friendship blossomed into a deep and genuine connection, and over time, our bond grew stronger. Daniel had also weathered his own life challenges, and together we found solace and companionship in our shared experiences. We navigated the complexities of modern dating and the intricacies of blending our lives, all while approaching this newfound love with caution and gratitude. With his unwavering support and encouragement, I learned to trust again, to open my heart and embrace the possibility of a new, loving relationship. Our love story was built on trust, respect, and a shared commitment to living authentically, free from the deception that had marred my previous marriage. Together, we explored the world and embarked on adventures that I had once only dreamed of. Traveling to far-flung destinations, savoring the richness of different cultures, and relishing the simple joys of life became our shared passions. We laughed, loved, and learned together, cherishing every moment. In the midst of our love story, I found the courage to address the emotional wounds left by my past. Therapy and self-reflection became essential tools in my healing journey, allowing me to release the pain and betrayal of my previous marriage and truly move forward. My friendship with Sarah, who had been my steadfast support throughout my divorce, remained a cornerstone of my life. We celebrated the milestones of our journeys, offering each other guidance and wisdom as we navigated the complexities of relationships and the uncertainties of life. As I moved further away from the shadows of betrayal, I embraced a life marked by honesty, love, and the pursuit of happiness. The scars of the past had become badges of resilience, symbols of the strength that had carried me through the darkest of times. The story of my life, once defined by betrayal and financial deceit, had transformed into a tale of courage, independence, and the enduring power of the human spirit. The future was no longer clouded by the secrets of the past, but illuminated by the promise of new beginnings, genuine connections, and the pursuit of an authentic and fulfilling life.